Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we are on chapter 9, the royal secret, and we are going to do verse 25 today and verse 24 last week. Bhagwan said to Arjuna, I alone am the enjoyer in and the Lord of the sacrifices, means yagnas, but they do not know me in essence, and hence they fall, return to the mortal world. So what the whole subject matter right now, the last couple of verses, is Bhagwan is talking about two different kind of people. One who seek the highest, and one who don't have that deep understanding about the essence of who God is. And then they just go for the lower things. So he's just telling different aspects of it, so we get a bigger picture of what happens in the world and what we want to strive for. We have to make that decision ourselves, what we want to strive for. But all these things help us to make that decision. Of course, if we are smart, we will go for the highest. So let's see in this verse now. The verse is Yanti deva vrata devan pitrun yanti pitruvrataha bhutani yanti bhutejaha yanti matyajinopimam. Yanti means to go. So this word is many times in this verse. Deva vrataha, worshippers of the Deva. So we all know Deva, and there are several meanings of it, and we will see what it means. But vrataha is when you are devoted to something, you take a vrat for it, worshipping. So the worshippers of Deva, that's what it says. Devan, to the Deva. So the worshippers of the Devas go to Deva. That's what the word meaning is. Pitrun is, the Pitras are the ones that in our family who are kind of, left this mortal world and gone from here. So people in our families who have passed away, Pitrus, ancestors. Yanti, go. Pitruvrataha, worshippers of the Pitras. So the one who worship, the word meaning would be whoever worships the Pitrus, they go to the Pitrulok. Bhutani, to the Bhutas. And here double meaning. One, the popular Bollywood meaning is a bhoot, pret and all that. I'm not talking about that. Some people may think, but that's okay. But here Bhutani is Panchamahabhutas. Yanti go Bhute Jaha, the worshippers of the Bhuta. To the people who worship the 5 elements, they go to it. We'll see what it actually means. Yanti, again go. Madhya Jinaha. Now Krishna Bhagavan is talking to saying my worshippers, the people who worship me. They also, appease also, Mam, they go to me. So what Bhagavan is again elaborating on the same subject that he has been for last several verses, that, the people who worship the little Devata. So now I'm going to tell you one thing, that Swami Chinmayananda goes a very practical route. And very scientific, and I absolutely love his whole explanation. And other Swamis may give you some slightly different, and both are significant. So I'll talk about both, and you can decide which one you like more and follow that. So, Nikhilanandji this is how he was explaining that there are, various expressions of the Bhagwan is there. We saw that, right? Devatas, all the different Devatas are like the Vayu Devata, the Agni Devata. And then India, we have discussed earlier, there are 1,000 different Devata, Gram Devata and Kula Devata and all that. They are there, of course. And so there are various beings who are also very powerful in their own right. But they have limited power, And they are little forms. And, but their power also comes from Bhagavan only. That's Supreme Lord. So that's the most important thing to remember, that they also get the power from the higher self. So there are people who, if we don't have the complete understanding of who God is, they might worship these devatas without that understanding, with limited understanding. Then what will happen? And then also, when the word vrata, you can look at it as the people who follow all kinds of vrats, And so what will happen? So these devatas, suppose somebody's example, so we'll understand better. Suppose somebody is worshipping Lord Indra. And they know about, from Puranic stories and all that. Indra is a king of the Devatas and he lives in Swargaloka. He is the king of the Swargaloka. So suppose you're worshipping Indra with that understanding, what's the maximum you can get? You can go to Swargaloka, right? And then you can get all the amenities of the Swargaloka. And Nikhilanand was explaining that Swargaloka may be different status hota hai. उसमें भी different लोग रहते हैं और different power है उनके पास. So you may get somewhere something, Indra Bhagwan cannot give you moksha, so maximum you can, whatever they have the power, उतना तक तुमको पहुंचा देंगे. और another thing he said, Indra Bhagwan cannot give you Brahmaloka. If you want Brahmaloka, then you got to worship Brahmaji. So that's the understanding we have to get. And then he was even saying, he was funny, Nikhilanand, he said, even if how much you worship Indra Bhagwan, he's not going to give you his post. He's not going to say, "आ जाओ भाई तुम मेरा post ले लो, मैं कुछ और बन जाता हूँ छोटा मोटा देता." He's not going to do that. So कितना limitations है देखो, So that's the problem. So if suppose somebody is worshipping them with great sincerity and all, fasting and chanting whatever mantras and doing yagya and puja and all that, so and rituals and all that. So after a long time, maybe after they die, they will go to that loka. That's one understanding of this. But Swamiji, Chinmayananji calls this limited understanding. The same way, Pitru Ganas. If, some people believe that when, it is kind of a Swarga loka only, but maybe another loka. Pitru
comment on Indra.
Sorry?
Before Krishna lifted the Govardhan,
people were worshipping.
People used to worship Indra.
That thought came to my head. Everybody knows that story, right? That people were worshipping Indra and then Krishna Bhagwan said, because that's a limited. He wanted people to lift up and he's saying that, why just Indra then? This mountain is giving you more stuff than Indra. But he wanted to teach a lesson to Indra too. So there are a lot of stories involved in that whole, there are a lot of aspects to it, that story. So that's a good one too. It fits over here properly. And so Pitru Loka, some people believe that after our ancestor passed away, before they take birth again, that according to their punya karma, they have different lokas and they have their own lokas and you can go there and enjoy with them. It's going to be a lot better than earth, less problem, something like a Swarga loka only. Some people believe that. So if you worship the Pitrus, then, forefathers and all that, then you can go over there. That's the maximum you can go. So that's another meaning you can say. And the Bhutaganas, the absolutely word meaning if you want to take, there are some people, these Bhutaganas are lower beings who are kind of don't want to do too much good, don't want to worship the highest, and they just want to live in the lower realm and all that. And some people believe that if you do a lot of bad things in this world, then you become bhoot pret because you don't deserve another body. What I'm trying to say, God has given you a gift of something, and if you're not making use of it, next time you are not going to get it so easily. समझो किसी ने कोई चीज बोरो की आपसे और उसको तोड़ फोड़ के वापस दे दिया आपको, आप उसको दोगे कभी वापस? To something like that. So it's a common sense, huh? So तुमको शरीर दिया और तुमने उसका इतना मिसयूज किया कि अब तुमको इतना जल्दी से मिलने वाला नहीं है. So वो लोग भटकते रहते हैं ऐसे योनि में. So there are some people, they worship those guys and all that and make them do some work and all that. चलो, if you worship, तुम भी भूत बन जाओगे. That's
I have a comment on this.
Yeah.
I read it in Ramanand Sagar's Gita, actually, the Krishna program.
Mm-hmm.
And Arjuna asked Krishna, when everybody should be worshipping you. Why don't they worship you? Why do they worship all these other gods?
Mm-hmm.
And his answer was, to worship me, you have to qualify through many of lifetimes to be able to worship me. In other words, everybody cannot just go and worship. So some people work with the vice president level, some people work with the, to get to the CEO, you have to be qualified.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And you know, the thing is, you don't even have to go too far. You look at, you know, if we all have come to study Bhagavad Gita, that means we want to worship the highest, because that's what he talks about in the entire thing. So the fact that you are, you know, sitting here trying to understand this, so you are already qualified, because that's why you're here. But there are other people who don't connect to it.
So after
Right?
I read that, then I used to watch these guys who were dancing at the airport, Hare Krishna people. And you should look in their eyes.
Oh, they are in
They're not
ecstasy. Yes, they are.
Yeah.
They are very happy. Yes.
Yeah.
But that is a, you know, this I was talking about this bhutvaga. That's a very limited meaning. Don't even go in that arena. I think the best explanation is the worshippers of Panch Mahabhuta. What are the Panch Mahabhutas? Akash, Vayu, Agni, Jal, and Prithvi. So what it is that we can call it materialistic. Okay, that's the best. So materialistic people, so there are several angles you can take for the materialistic people. There are materialists who will believe in God, but they're interested in it. Who will study Gita and all, and they can be material scientists, and they will pursue the material science for benefit of the society or something. That's perfectly fine. And there are other set of materialist people who don't believe in the higher self. These are Pancha Mahabhutas are the main thing, and there's nothing more to it. There are people like that, you know, the Charvakas and all that. So there are different varieties of things, but here he's just giving you some idea what he's talking about. So there could be people who don't believe in the presence of divinity, but they believe in matter. So if they worship that, then you become, more and more tuned to those things, and you understand them, of course. And, going a little deeper, whatever is your attitude and understanding about your worship, that's how you will become. You will get the result accordingly. And there is a very famous saying that as you think, so you become. It's like electricity is kind of going through the entire house, but what equipment I use, it will express it that way. So, that's another way you can understand. And then Bhagwan adds another very, very important thing. He says, Yanti Madhya Jinopi Mam. But those who worship me, they attain me. So with the same principle you apply to the highest, so they attain the supreme state of enlightenment. So because what Nikhilanandji gave a very good point. He's saying only that highest Brahman or Ishwar or Paramatma has a power to give you liberation. Rest of all people have no authority to give you liberation. So then they will give you just whatever they can. And then another important thing he said was, and this is proven through all the Puranic stories and all that the rest of the Devatas and all they're talking about, they are also under the sway of Maya also. Just like us, we are a little more deluded than them, but उनको भी माया ने डस के रखा है, ऐसी बात नहीं है, because उनमें भी competition है. We saw कि इंद्र भगवान को हमेशा डर लगा रहता है कोई मेरा वो ले लेगा सिंहासन ले लेगा, and then he get jealous and they fight and this and that, all that nonsense is going on over there also. There are all the other amenities are there, and you don't have disease, you don't have old age, this, that, all that nice thing, but other things are still over there. And then he was just saying, वहाँ पर भी ऐसा होता है, इधर भी ऐसा होता है, like giving an example that how people think that grass looks on the other side of the fence, greener on the other side of the fence. He's saying that somebody, say, economically different people have, किसी के पास कम है, किसी के पास ज़्यादा है, right? So जिसके पास कम है वो सोचता है हाय जिसके पास ज़्यादा है ना वो कितना खुश है वहाँ पे he is so happy, मेरे को भी मिल जाए तो मैं भी कितना खुश हो जाऊँ. ये नहीं मालूम है उसको कि that person is very comfortable in his home because he's got everything, but he's comfortably unhappy. That's what he used the word. He's saying that's the problem, So you can be both ways. You can be comfortably unhappy, or you can be uncomfortably unhappy also, obviously. So if you have to choose between the two, of course, if you are comfortable and happy, that's the best, right? And then there is a remedy I'm going to talk about that. But what he was trying to say, that even if you become, say, very rich and all that, your state of mind can be very poor. Even though you have all the comforts, but you are not able to enjoy that, because you are just miserable, because you are full of anger, jealousy, frustration, pain, sorrow, guilt. All these things, no matter what you have, is going to make you unhappy anyway. So he was just saying that tranquility of the mind and purity of mind, that's what is directly responsible for happiness. Okay? So that was one very important point he was talking about. That's why we want to go to the highest, because pursuing the highest can give us all those things, but other things may or may not be able to give us. One second, yeah. So this is something that comes out of this particular verses. And then he said, okay, if peace and happiness, and that is something much more deeper, that's another point he's made, and more valuable. So that's what we should strive for, and that's what we can get with this highest. Rest of the things are not going to give you, material things are not going to give you all that. And then he was saying that like the point that he said, that if you get both material comfort and peace of happiness, sone pe suhaga. He was saying, dono haath mein laddu. That we want, right? So Bhagavat Gita gives us the best remedy. Because karma yoga, if you do it properly, it can give you prosperity also. Remember that the last verse of Bhagavat Gita, I've talked about it many times. They said that wherever there is Lord Krishna and Arjuna together, there'll be, Vijaya means there will be victory, there will be prosperity, there will be happiness, and there will be a good policy. That's what everybody wants. So, the remedy that Krishna Bhagavan talked about in Bhagavad Gita, that with proper karma yoga, you will get the prosperity, and then you will advance, and in bhakti, and it will give you inner, karma yoga also gives you inner quietude and purity, and then the bhakti comes in, knowledge comes in, and your purity and quietude gets deeper and deeper, and then you can get that highest state, peace and happiness, moksha and all that, So that's why Bhagavan said that those who worship me attain me. Okay. So, and then this bhutas ka, he was trying to explain, Nikhilananji has his own way of explaining, which was kind of interesting too, that whatever you worship, you go towards that. Or he was just saying that, suppose if there is an archaeologist, so he loves history, he goes and he finds out everything. वो लोग, we have seen some shows on TV how they will पत्थर को तोड़ते जाएंगे नीचे, फिर सब कुछ मिलेगा उनको, फिर वो उसी दुनिया में रहने लगते हैं. When you say that somebody, if they worship that, that's what they become. And then he was just joking about today's world. He's saying that we all are kind of addicted to our phones and computers and this and that. हम भी computer की तरह सोचने लगते हैं. Because like that. So he was saying कि कोई सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर होता है ना, वो बड़ा सिस्टमेटिक बन जाता है, फिर वो हर एक चीज में वो अपना कंप्यूटर इंजीनियरिंग ही लेके आएगा. वो घर में भी फ्लो चार्ट बनाएगा, और उसे अगर वेकेशन पे जाना होगा ना, तो फिर भी वो पूरा सिस्टमेटिक वो बना लेगा कि पॉइंट ए से बी में जाएंगे, बी से सी में जाएंगे, और जरा सा भी इधर से उधर होएगा ना, तो बस उसका तो मूड ही खराब हो जाएगा, नर्वस हो जाएगा, एजिटेटेड हो जाएगा. तो अब हम लोग ऐसे ही बनते जा रहे हैं. So that was very interesting point he said. ये नहीं कि भाई कहीं जा रहे हैं तो रिलैक्स हो, go with the flow and enjoy the nature. ये देखना है, वो देखना है, वो करना है, वो करना है, वैसे मशीन जैसे बन गए हम लोग. So that was another thing he said. And then he said another important thing that I didn't think about. He said जो materialistic में ज़्यादा जाओ ना, तो हाउ यू थिंक मटीरियलिस्टिक चीज़ें ऐसी होती है कि दिस थिंग इज नॉट वर्किंग, जस्ट बैंग ऑन इट देन, बिकॉज वी थिंक इट हैड, उसमें कोई जान नहीं है, उसको ऐसे पीटो मारो, कुछ चल नहीं रहा, जैसे पुराना कोई रेडियो होता था कि बंद हो जाता था, उसको ऐसे जाके थोड़ा 2-3 बार जोर से मारो तो वो चालू हो जाता था. So he's saying that you become like insensitive, and then you start treating people also like that. You forget that there are conscious beings, and oh, this, I think America में तो बहुत होता है, right? This person is not giving me enough profit to he may be serving you for so many years. Oh, just get rid of and get another person. Insensitive behavior. So because you become too materialistic. So that's another way of looking at it. So, in nutshell, Bhagavan is saying that whoever worship the lower realm of my, universe, that's what they get. And whoever, so he just said, Devata becomes, worship the little Devata, you become like them. Worship ancestor, you go to them, or you go live in the past. That's another way of looking at it. But the one who worship Brahman, they go to Brahman. That's what he says. Any comment, question? Anybody wants to add anything before we go to Chinmayananji's explanation? Okay. Who wants to read today?
I can read.
Okay.
I have to read this.
So just read, it's a very long one. So maybe you read few paragraphs and then somebody else can read it.
No, from where I should start? In the eternal or in the beginning? The worshippers of the...
Yeah, the worshippers of the Devas.
Okay. The worshippers of the Devas or gods go to the Devas, to the Pitras or ancestors, go to the ancestor for worshippers. To the Bhutas or the elements, go the worshippers of the Bhutas. But my worshippers come to me. It is an eternal principle in life that as you think, so you become. The thoughts maintained by an individual defines him from the future periods of his life. The thoughts entertained at a given moment get themselves crystallized to form a blueprint for the individual's character formation in the days to come. This is a fact very well realizable to everyone in his own life. Applying this natural law of psychology in the field of spiritual self-development, Lord Krishna says, votaries of the Devas go to the Devas, and so on. The worshippers of the Devas, ancestors, Pitras, and the elements Bhutas, as a result of their worships and adoration, and with single-pointed mind for a sufficiently long time, come to attain the fruition of their constant meditation.
So firstly, here's a very scientific fact, because Swamiji goes in a good science, deep science. He's saying the law of life is as you think, so you become. Your thoughts are extremely powerful, and we know that it is something like the universe has everything available, but our thoughts, crystallize in our action, makes it manifest what we want. And there are that, some movie was there too, The Secret, I don't know how many of you seen, and the book is there also, how these very successful people, how they have got what they got. That they had a very concentrated effect. They thought about it, meditated on it, and act upon it. And they got what they wanted. So that's what basically the law is. So if you follow that law of this psychology, then, whichever one you put your efforts in, whatever your thoughts are, that's where you will put your effort. You'll be devoted, and that's what the result you will get. So that's the fact to understand first. Okay.
In the old style, commentators would explain that the devotee of particular deity reaches to an experience where he can come to live the citizenship in his Lord's own world. This criticized explanation throws a veil of mystery over the stanza. A much more liberal interpretation can easily carry to us a more deeper conviction.
So he's saying this constricted explanation. So Swamiji is saying if you just look at the word meaning, that's how a lot of people explain this verse, that if you worship a particular devta, tum uske lok mein pahunch jaoge. That's a very limited according to, okay, if you want to believe that, that's fine. But Swamiji wants to take us another angle. That's what he's always saying.
Devas, we have seen, represents in our individual life the virtue sense organs through the activities of which we experience the world. They indicate the work done by the term denoting the instrument with which the work is executed is rather too common in life. To axe, to scissor, to knife, to spanner, to steer, to pen, and so on are examples wherein the name of the instrument is used to indicate the work done by it. Similarly, here also the plural noun devas may be taken to mean the entire field of all physical experiences. Those who are courting the external world of joys and successes constantly with the required amount of devotion, they come to gain that field of their demanded experience.
So we have discussed this many times in the past, but there are a lot of people who join later, and you may know this or you may not know. But when we say devas, we also mean the sense organs in our body. And the way the connection is very scientific, that there are 5 elements in the world, Panch Mahabhutas, and our each sense organ, we have 5 sense organs. They are directly connected with it. Like our hearing is directly connected with the Akash element, and the taste with water, and, smell with the earth. So there is a complete connection. So these are called devata because they illumine the world for us. The devas come from the word illumine. And these sense organs illumine the world for us. This is how we see everything, understand everything. So he's just saying that the entire, when we say devas, put all together physical experience. So if you quote that and you put your effort in that, you will get a more enhanced physical experience you will get. And the same I was explaining when I was talking earlier, that, some kind of archaeologist, he pursues that world and then he lives in that experience. A scientist will live in his own experience. An economist will live in his own experience. उसको सारी दुनिया में वही दिखाई देगा. उसका enhance हो जाता है वो. So that's where you can look at it.
The term Pitra means ancestors. It is the belief that the dead, in order to enjoy the merits which they had acquired in their individual life, living through a consistent and devoted life of the ordinate karmas only, leaving their physical embodiments, retire for a limited period to a realm of bliss and joy called the world of ancestors. After enjoying for a period of time at the execution of their acquired merits, they are traditionally believed to come down again to the mortal world. The conception is instead upon the orthodox commentators, but in reading such a meaning into this stanza, the larger imports of the Gita as a textbook of instruction for civilization of a higher culture are sadly lost.
So here I already mentioned that, right? Some people believe that the Pitras or the ancestor, before taking another birth, after they leave this world, they have their own lokas and they are enjoying, they call it world of ancestors. And, but Swamiji is saying that this is a very limited kind of meaning, so let's not go over it. Okay, maybe somebody else can read it now. Meena ji or Anil ji, whoever wants to read.
I can read one paragraph more.
It's it's a very long, so I think let's split.
I can read two more.
You really want to read, right? Okay. All right.
Let me read.
All right.
Accepting the term Pitra as donating the ancestors, votaries of ancestors, would mean persons enthusiastically alive to the cultural purity and tradition of their ancients, and who are striving to live up to those ideals. Such an individual who is constantly endeavoring to live up to the ancient culture tradition of the spiritual India. As a result of his constant self-application, he comes to gain the beauty and the shine of the executive life.
Okay, sorry. You know what? You are mispronouncing a lot of words, and even it's kind of messing up with my mind. Sorry. Can
let others see.
Yeah, I don't mean to do this, but it just was disturbed. I could not follow myself. So
Okay.
yeah. You can practice a little bit, and it'll come, because Swamiji's language is a little bit.
Nothing matter.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't mind.
Yeah. Sorry, Meenaji.
I'm going to read from accepting, okay? Accepting the term Pitra as denoted the ancestors, votaries of ancestors, would mean persons enthusiastically alive to the cultural purity and tradition of their ancients, and who are striving to live up to those ideals. Such an individual who is constantly endeavoring to live up to the ancient cultural tradition of the spiritual India. As a result of his constant self-application, he comes to gain the beauty and the shine of the exquisite life of purity and perfection.
So see how Swamiji took us to a very deep level of this Pitras, that, our ancestors who had, they had a cultural purity and tradition, and when you are worshipping them, that means you are living up to their ideals. It's because like India में तो ये बहुत important है ना ये part. We call it, our culture is so rich, and if we, whatever our ancestors have taught us, if we live in that, we follow that, then we will get the benefits of it. Then we are living in the world of ancestor from that perspective. See how beautiful this meaning has come out now from worshipping the ancestors. So there is something positive in it. Nothing negative about it. A very, very positive thing, even if you do that, So
it felt good when I read it.
Exactly. Yeah, how he brought it out. I also felt very good when I saw this. I said, wow, that's why you need these Mahatma's commentaries.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, yes. Mm-hmm. The worshippers of Bhutas reach the Bhutas is a line which is usually known as explaining the lower spiritual practice called Prakriti Laya, indicated in a textbook. This extremely technical meaning, read into this phrase, again destroys the magnitude of application of the Gita as a book for man's redemption.
So, there's some term is called Prakriti Laya. Honestly, I don't know exactly what it is. So if somebody knows, maybe they can shed some light on it. And there's some kind of a meditation that the people do. And, the meaning means Prakriti Laya means everything dissolves, and maybe, you go into some other realm. I don't know what it is, honestly. I tried to figure it out. I could not. So we're going to just skip. And if anybody wants to know what it is or want to do some research, come back and share. We are happy to do that. Yeah. Okay.
Umaji,
Huh.
It's Prakriti Laya in Sanskrit means absorption into nature. And, this is what brought me to Gita class, because I always believed in Panch Mahabhuta, that, when I die, I'm just going to dissolve and being absorbed in the nature.
Mm-hmm.
And this Gita is giving me a complete different aspect of reaching Brahman. So that, to me, it's really making deep sense, because I always thought, from science point of view, that you will just get absorbed in the nature. But Brahman is beyond nature, probably, that's where it's taking us. So it's making really clarifying a lot of parts in my mind.
thank you so much for sharing that. That made a lot of sense. So Prakriti, that you just dissolve into the nature. Yes, yes, yes. So that is like and that also happens, right, Falguni ji? That also happens. Our body does get back to the nature, whether you are cremated or whether you are buried, or birds eat you or whatever. So that happens, but that is just one aspect, because your mind and intellect and your tendencies are going to another life. So true. And it's like most of the people, if nobody told you about it, that there is a soul, or there is these jivatma is there that goes into another life, we won't even know. So that's why our scriptures or our experience of our Mahatmas and all are so important to us, because otherwise we just think that it's Prakriti Laya. True. Thank you for
So
sharing that.
it's taking us to Jivatma and I don't know, Sukshamatma, or whatever, the different levels of layers of our
Yes, different layers of our self, and then to reach the highest is even beyond that. True, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
We should thank you.
Yes.
That'd be the other way. The ancient seers of our land did not overlook the fact that apart from the spiritual aims in any society, there was also a life of active scientific inquiry and repeated discoveries that were possible among the folds of Mother Nature's own garments. The active quest in the field of objective sciences is a part of man's hunt for knowledge, and therefore the worshippers of the Bhutas are the secular scientists who try to observe, codify, and systematize the observed knowledge of physical nature and behaviors of things and beings, as it is now done under such classifications as physics, chemistry, biology, zoology, botany, engineering, agriculture, politics, sociology, geography, history, geology, and so on. An endless array of specialized lines of investigation adopted, pursued, and accepted by the modern world. Almost a large portion of the Atharvana Veda gave us the accepted theories of nature and its behavior as finely conceived of by the rishis of that time. The physiological theory which Krishna is observing here is applicable to all branches of human endeavor, that if one were to pursue diligently in courting nature, even in the secular field, success is assured in direct proportion to the amount of self-application put forth by the seeker.
So this is what the worshippers of Bhutas, he explained, and it's a very amazing explanation. And this we see, and all the things he talked about in physics, chemistry, biology, now you can add another 30 different things, computer science, and some people tell me all these not new kids, the kids who are going to college now, when I ask them, hey, what are you going to be studying? And they give me names that I've not even heard about. All these things that they are pursuing, which is so interesting. And the world is changing faster than what we can, So, that's why Swamiji said, endless array of specialized line of investigation. And some people can create their own line also of investigation, So, whatever you want to pursue, if you put all your heart and mind and all in it, this is a psychological theory, Krishna Bhagwan said, that you will get success in that. That we know that. Wherever you put your effort and you are devoted to it, you will get it. So, agar aisa ho sakta hai secular field mein, in the worldly sense it can happen, same principle applies to the Brahman. And that's why they have such famous saying in other religion also. What is that? I think that Neeluji knows. Seek and you shall find, right? What is? Did I say it correct now? या हिंदी में बोलते हैं ढूंढने से तो भगवान भी मिल जाता है. So चलो ढूंढना शुरू करते हैं फिर. Why not, right? So that's
अंदर जाके ढूंढो, अंदर से ढूंढो.
Yeah. और अगर बाहर ढूंढोगे तो फिर अपने आप अंदर जाना पड़ेगा, बिकॉज like we talked about it, बाहर भी शायद मिल जाए and then फिर अंदर जाके ढूंढना पड़ेगा. So but if you have it inside, why do you need to go out? That's what the question is. But the full circle has to be there, because if somebody thinks God is only within also, that's also a problem. He is within and without, right? So it has to be a complete circle. Because जो meditative है वो लोग बोलेंगे कि मुझे तो अंदर ही मिलते हैं, जो दुनिया वालों को तो मुझे तो हर जगह भगवान दिखाई देते हैं. वो भी एक सही बात है. You can take your pick, or you can say both ways. Both ways. आंखें बंद करो तो अंदर दिखाई देने चाहिए, आंखें खोलो तो बाहर दिखाई देने चाहिए. Correct? That's the best place to be. Yeah.
And this Atharva Veda, that's why they had 3 Vedas before, which was spirituality. And the third Veda is the one who took us outside.
Oh, you mean the Atharva Veda is more like, I heard that they have all these other sciences in it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because that was added later on. Yes, absolutely. So I think somebody made another big, very interesting observation, that in our Vedas and our जो भी बोलो tradition, culture, anything you want to call it, उसमें ना science और spirituality different नहीं है. They are all together, right? Mm-hmm. And even the Ayurveda, it is in complete line with the Vedanta. It talks about the 3 different things. That a human being is not just physical body, it's physical, mental, and spiritual. So when you get sick, all 3 have to be addressed. If you just address one aspect of it, and if you don't do the other aspect, you may not get well, because the problem may be somewhere in between or whatever, And I know Anil ji probably knows a lot more about this. But even in the scientific world, like I know my husband is also here, sometimes he would say that, in his lectures and all that, the doctors, they all should learn how to know how to cook and all, about the food also. Because if you go to a doctor, आजकल तो शायद पूछते हैं वो लोग, but there was a time maybe 20 years ago, you have some sickness and all. In America, if you went to a doctor, they would just say, go take this medicine and go home. They will not ask you, तुम क्या खाते हो, क्या पीते हो, all that affects us. इंडिया में तो अगर कोई बुखार चढ़ता है तो फिर 10 चीजें बोलते ये तो खाओ ही मत, नहीं तो और खराब हो जाएगी तबीयत, और ये खाओ, right? And it did work, but this next generation, now they are learning a little bit, because they would get sick and they would keep eating, and they say, I'm not getting better, my stomach hurts. I said, you have to eat khichdi, then you will feel better. If you keep eating all this same burger, sugar, pizza, you're not going to get better. So human being is not just one thing. There are different aspects, and they recognize this 100%. And their entire spectrum was that. So.
Thus, if consistency of meditation upon the Devas yields the Devas, if constant meditation upon the ancestors take us to our ancestral heritage, and if diligent self-application in the fields of intellectual inquiry, bhutas, can ultimately assure us a positive success in ripping open the secret vaults of nature, then under the same principle, we are assured that my votaries come unto me. By constant meditation, with a single pointed mind upon the nature of the self, the meditator can, in the long run, successfully discover his total identity with the self, eternal and immutable. In our elementary textbooks on Vedanta, this technique of the ego's constant meditation on the self and ultimately its becoming to be the divine self has been indicated by comparing it with the progress by which a worm is transformed as a buffer by the buffer bee.
So this is, and there is a note at the bottom, it's called Bhramara Kita Nyaya, So Brahmari, well, this is what it is, that how, I think, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, जो cocoon में रहता है, some kind of worm or butterfly. When butterfly is in that stage of a worm, they call it, right? I don't know the technical name for the butterfly when it is in that state.
Larva.
So larva होता है वो बिल्कुल बटरफ्लाई जैसा नहीं दिखता है, उसका कैरेक्टरिस्टिक बिल्कुल वैसा नहीं है, और वो इट्स टाइड अप इन दैट cocoon and then it seems that वो एक छोटा सा होल बनता है, फिर it's उसमें से I don't know what the process is, maybe if somebody knows can Girish,
It
do you
starts
know?
off as a caterpillar, and then of course it becomes a larva because it spins from its own internal secretion. It spins that larva, and then you're right, when it comes out, then it's a completely different being.
Yeah. So उसमें उन्होंने ऐसा एंगल लिया है कि that larva meditates, it looks at that butterfly and says, man, मेरे को वो बनना है. But it is so different, but it keeps doing that, it gets the strength to break that little hole from there, and then somehow it continuously meditates, it gets out, and then it flies like a butterfly. So हम लोग भी ऐसे, हम लोग के ककून में बंधे हुए हैं. अभी समझ में नहीं आ रहा क्या करे. Then we look at all these, oh yeah, they are so happy, I want that freedom, I want that moksha, and then I keep meditating upon it, I keep doing everything that the person is doing, I'll also get success. It's simple as that. And I think that going back to chapter 2, when Krishna Bhagwan started giving him the gyan and all that, अर्जुना ने सोचा कि भाई everything sounds very hunky dory, but ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं क्या? So then he asked, कि hey, can you please tell me, are there such people in this world and how do they behave and all that? And then there was that Sthita Prajna Lakshana, 18 verses where Krishna Bhagwan said, this is how this person behaves. So then why Krishna Bhagwan gave that? So we can try to imitate them. Well, then fake it until you make it, because in the beginning we may not be able to. But we keep trying. Hey, if they can do, maybe I can do it too. If they have a control over their mind, then maybe I can also try. So if I keep doing that, I will get the success. So that's what it is. That's what trying to encourage us.
Yeah, you have somebody to look upon.
Yes.
But that's what it is, and then you can do it then.
So then if look upon, but खाली look ही करते रहेंगे तो भी नहीं मिलेगा.
But at least
Exactly.
you have something assurance that
Yes, you're right. So then if I start doing those things, then I can also reach, right? Like suppose these athletes and all that, when they are young, I'm sure they have these ideals. Oh my God, I want to become like that, and then they strive for it. Go practice, and then they also get it.
Earlier, Arjuna was advised upon the necessity of developing a single-pointed attention, ere he could start his cultural rehabilitation. With the concentration so developed, through the different methods indicated, the Lord suggested how Arjuna should strive to maintain his mind, even while diligently working in the field of his worldly duties, keeping himself in the constant remembrance of the Lord. A mere student of philosophy may wonder at the efficacy of such a simple technique of yoga, especially when the student is fed upon the misunderstood overemphasis upon tapas and meditation, as explained in the Vedika law.
So here Swamiji is bringing, did the paragraph end?
No, mine didn't end. Did yours end?
Yes, mine ended. So,
Okay, I'll wait.
Okay. So what he's trying to say, this is very, very interesting. Okay, and we have to contemplate upon this. That on one hand, the Vedas and all, they give a lot of importance on tapas and meditation. And not everybody can just sit and do that. We cannot go like Buddha under the Bodhi tree and, drop everything and say, okay, now until enlightenment, I'm not getting up. None of us are capable of doing that. So Krishna Bhagwan came up with the most simple technique for Arjuna. Arjuna has to fight the war. Where is he going to get time to sit and meditate? He's saying, so then he came up with this karma yoga thing. Hey, while doing your action, your mind should be on me. And then that also people get confused. Hey, how can that be? Either I'm working or I'm thinking of God. And then we saw the whole thing. Hey, once I know who God is, how can I get God out of my mind then? Everything I do, so that awareness, That's where it keeps the ego down too, if you think about it. If we are constantly aware of that higher self, that's when we are not egotistic. We are humble and we remember. So, he's just saying that the Lord suggested this simple technique, and some people might question it. Is it possible? And according to Chinmayananji and according to Lord Krishna, 100% it is possible. And one example usually is given that, if I'm a woman, I don't need to remind myself all the time I'm a woman. I know it. That's it. Just same way, God, God is everything. And be aware of it. That's what he is trying to tell us. And that is, when Bhagavan said that one who meditates upon me, reaches me, that is the method, that you never forget him.
They give the example of the mother and the young child.
Yes, that's
So that, she can keep on working, yet she has one ear for the child. If it's crying or something, she has to attend to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good example. Yes.
The attempt of the Gita is to give not only the jnana, but it is to supply the vijnana also. In order to convince the student that this elementary technique can take the seeker to the highest achievements, this stanza is given. Just as consistent pursuit with all dedicated self-application brings, in the end, sure success in all fields of activity of art or science, so too in the realm of the within and ultimately in the field of spiritual achievements, constant meditation will definitely pay. The logic behind this assuring belief is given here by the Lord.
So he's just concluding now that, firstly, Gyan and Vigyan, we saw what it is, right? Gyan is like knowledge and Vigyan is, when you experience it yourself. So it is a one step, and that's when it becomes into wisdom also. Otherwise, it just stays like, Gyan means somebody else's knowledge. But when it becomes your own and you experience what you have learned, that's what Vigyan is. So here, Krishna Bhagavan is telling about both, because that's what he said when he started. I think in chapter 7, he introduced that word Jnana Vijnana. I'm going to tell you both, and it's a complete technique, the goal, and how to reach there. So he's just saying that consistent pursuit with dedicated self-application. So if you are, devoted to something, in the end, you will get the result. And if this is in the field of art and science, if it can happen, then it will happen in the world of within also, that the spiritual achievement, that we can get that. That's what he's saying. And there is a connecting verse over here.
Yes. Can mere worship with devoted thoughts, however sincere, bring about such an absolute success? Is it not necessary that we should pursue all the elaborate rituals that the Vedas prescribe and often seem to insist upon? Listen.
So actually the next verse is very, very interesting, and it is quoted by many people. Patram pushram phalam toyam, we'll see. And it's talking about, rituals, what is the place of a ritual in that whole scheme of thing? Because in India, we are masters of rituals. They can go on and on for hours. Hours. But Krishna Bhagavan tells you what are the two most important points in the ritual. So I think that, the way I look at it, once you learn Bhagavad Gita, you will actually enjoy some of the rituals too, because you will be more absorbed in it. And, because I grew up in a family where, all the kids, we were a joint family, 15 kids. और सब लोग को सर दर्द हो जाता था जब भी कोई पूजा चालू होती थी सब बच्चों को oh my God, we have to sit there for 2 hours now. But because we didn't have the understanding, Now, as we matured, I'm sure that we can, enjoy it a lot more. And if you do it, if you want to, but at least be absorbed in it, whatever you're doing. I think that will be very good to see.
Yeah, but, they also points out, don't stop at rituals.
Of course, because that's just the means, it's not the end.
Right.
Right? If you're just sitting in the ritual, that means you taking your car to get somewhere and you keep sitting in your car only. You don't even go to your destination. So that's what it is, So, yes. Any question, comment?
I'm sorry, you were saying something.
No, go ahead, Anilji.
Aren't the rituals connected to your desires?
True, but rituals are more symbolic. They are like, I was just thinking about it. How do we explain a ritual? It's something like, let me see if you connect to this. I don't know. Somebody comes to your house, okay? अतिथि. एक तो अतिथि होता है, तुम बहुत प्यार करते हो उससे, कोई फैमिली वाला है, कोई फ्रेंड्स है, वो how much you go to please them, you'll pay, cook nice खाना, do this, do that, and पूरा जान लगा दोगे तुम उनके लिए, right? वो एक रिचुअल हो गया. दूसरा कोई आ गया जो तुमको बिल्कुल पसंद नहीं है, क्या करोगे तुम? बोलो. सारे टाइम ये सोचे कि कब भी वापस जाए. Do I have to cook for this person? Oh my God, you're just so frustrated. कौन से वाले में तुम्हारा मन लगा हुआ है? So Bhagwan is saying that whatever you do, if you put your heart in it, that's where you will get the result. कितना भी लंबा रिचुअल कर रहे हो, उसमें तुम्हारा हार्ट नहीं है, तुमको कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला. So what you are saying is a slightly different angle, that you are saying that, okay, yes, they are connected to your desire, पर वो भी तुमको मन से करना पड़ेगा. Right? तब तुमको कोई रिजल्ट मिलेगा. सपोज अभी दशरथ जी को पुत्र कामेष्टि यज्ञ करना था. He has to do with lot of heart and all, then he got the result. Because that was demand of his time. He needed a son to continue his, legacy or whatever, or his rajya, he needed somebody, uttaradhikari and all that. True, it can be. So the same principle is good for the secular world as well as, the spiritual world. True. So it depends on desires. If you want highest God, and Bhagwan is going to tell in the next verse, I don't need anything too much, Baba. Give me a little thing with lot of bhav and, pure mind, and I will accept it. So कोई बोलेगा कि मेरे को सत्यनारायण की पूजा करनी है, I don't have money and all that. Hey, you don't need anything. So that's what it is. True.
Umaji, I associated rituals with religion, not everyday life. Atithi ghar mein aaya, that is our cultural everyday life.
No, that is just I gave you. What is ritual? What is religion according to you then?
Religion is जब हम पूजा पाठ करते हैं, anything, the way of worship, the कैसे बैठना है, नहा धो के, सब those sort of things.
True, but उसका पर्पस कहाँ है? वो क्यों आया? आप बोलो मुझे, बताओ मुझे. उन्होंने जो प्रिस्क्राइब किया उसके पीछे कोई कारण भी होगा ना. तो कारण यही है कि समझो अभी हमको पूजा करनी है तो बोलते पहले नहा के आओ. Nobody says कि मंदिर में बिना नहाए गंदे मंदे जाओ, right? कुछ चढ़ाना है तो कोई प्योर चीजें चढ़ाओ. So that my mind becomes pure. They are trying to catch your pure mind. The outside thing is just a symbolism about it. फिर एंड में वो लोग ये भी बोलेंगे कि तुम ये सब कुछ नहीं कर सकते हो तो मानस पूजा करो. Have you heard of Shiva Manas Puja?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So suppose if I'm not capable, I'm sick, I cannot take shower, suppose, huh? Does that mean that I cannot reach God? No, you can. Lay in your bed and do Manas Puja and God will accept that. So ritualism is nothing but they are taking these higher principles and making it, just for the material things because that's easier for us to comprehend. So start with that. Like if I want to do a puja, then they will say धूप बत्ती जलाओ, घंटी बजाओ, ये वो, just so that मेरा mind इधर उधर भाग रहा है घंटी से, तो फिर I will listen to घंटी, तो मेरे विचार बंद हो जाएंगे दूसरे वाले, and nice fragrance will make my mind feel happy. Then I will not be in some kind of nasty mood or something, had fight with some family member and now I have to do puja, but maybe if I put the धूप बत्ती, with that smell and all, मेरा मन शांत हो जाएगा. So all that is just to catch your mind only. Think about it. So that you connect to the higher then. इतना तो आप मानते हो ना नीलू जी कि जो भी रिचुअल है उसका पर्पस तो ये है ना भगवान से जुड़ना, कि नहीं? हाँ, so वो
and
Yeah, there's a science behind it. But suppose you are doing all this ritual, you don't know why you are doing it, you are totally irritated with it, and you are saying, why this, why that? So, usse acha nahi karo. It's better you don't do that. If you don't connect to it, please don't do it. Because Krishna Bhagwan has told you the remedy in the next verse. कोई जरूरत अगर तुमको मजा आता है उसमें करने में, तुम्हारा मन एक्चुअली शांत होता है, तो बाय ऑल मीन्स करो, 6 घंटे की पूजा करो, कोई मना नहीं कर रहा है. लेकिन खाली रिलीजन ने लिख दिया इसके लिए तुम कर रहे हो, तो कोई फायदा नहीं है. दैट्स व्हाट इज ट्राइंग टू डू.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Umaji. That was very succinctly put and very relevant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. This what helps in the discussion when people bring out different points, you know.
Yeah, there's a little story. Give me 1 minute. I'll tell
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
It's
sure.
like a joke.
Please
There
say
was a pujari, and one of the things he had to do before he started his puja was to tie up the cat, because the cat would come and drink the milk that he's offering as prasad. So it just so happened that the pujari passed away and his young son took over the duties. And he had seen his father tie the cat. He did not know why, but he kept doing it. And then, of course, one day the cat died. And then वो परेशान हो गया कि मुझे अब एक और बिल्ली लानी पड़ेगी so that I can do my puja. I have to tie up the billi before I can do my puja. This happens when you don't understand why the rituals are being done.
Yeah, very, very nice story. Exactly. And over the traditions, you know, and I think there was I don't know who to blame, but some of our, you know, parents and all that, they were doing certain rituals and they couldn't explain to us why they were doing it. And that's why they बोलते बस ऐसा करते थे हमारी family में, तो बस बैठ के करो, you know. So that's exactly what you're saying happened. But now I think with the awareness, with the internet, with the, you know, young people asking questions, अभी हम लोग ये हमारे generation के young लोगों को बोल भी नहीं सकते चुप बैठो, वो चुप बैठेंगे ही नहीं, वो 10 बार क्वेश्चन करेंगे, तो हम लोग को भी पढ़ना पड़ता है to answer them. उस हमारा कल्याण भी होता है. And in Chinmaya mission, there's a rule that you cannot send to Bal Vihar kids just to the school. You have to study also Vedanta. You know, because it, you know, hey, you want your children to learn, you also learn. So then you can discuss with each other. So what you're saying is that story has a lot of significance, that, you know, why you are doing, we need to really learn that. And then once we find out the futility of a lot of nonsense, and then sometimes they could be doing certain things in their age, we don't have to do that. Like, you know, in chapter 6, they said, Kusha grass, pe baitho ye karo for meditation. So Swamiji said, for right now, you just take a soft blanket and sit, because then they gave the reason why they said Kusha grass, because you don't perspire. If you perspire and the sweat stays under, you won't be able to meditate. So those days, that's what they use, but you don't have to do the exact same thing. Try to understand why and substitute. So your foundation has to be strong according to Chinmayananda, but you have to be flexible. And we saw, you know, that the religions which are not flexible, kitna bura hal hota hai unka. So there you gotta learn to be flexible. I think that's common sense too, right? Yeah. Any other discussion? Sorry, anybody? Okay.
Umaji, do we have a minute?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so for the rituals, you know, as a child, I had a question when, you know, when we used to have the Ganpati Puja, you bring the Ganpati to your house and then you, you know, worship and do all this kind of things. And at the end of the period, you take it to the ocean and, you know, it just like, so my question was like, why are we just doing so much and then it doesn't matter to you? And basically somebody explained to me that we are not able to focus. We are very weak. So we need that idol to focus your mind on it. But that period is just to go deep into yourself, that where you don't need this idol anymore. So you're not really disintegrating it, but you have it's a process of attaining that higher status where you don't need a physical idol to focus on. Your mind can take you there without any material object. And that's why you are actually putting the object in the ocean, because now it's just an object. You already have the God within you to be able to focus.
That's an excellent explanation.
Yes.
Yeah. And the other, somebody can take another angle to it, and both are valid. Whatever you said is a very beautiful explanation. And the second thing is that, hey, material things that they are constantly changing, and in the end they all dissolve in that Brahman anyway. So you are taking this Ganpati, you are, don't get too attached to it. Because people, like I'm from Mumbai, and I've lived near the ocean. So the Ganpati festival was the biggest near my house. Like hundreds of Ganpatis would come and all that. And the women would be crying because in 10 days, they were getting attached to the whole, they felt also they are losing. And the whole idea was, hey, don't get attached. Let it dissolve in that whole Brahman. Okay, so that's another.
I like that even better. That's another explanation.
Yes. And that's why we have these rituals of taking the ashes and putting in Ganga and all that. And these days, the new trend has started, which is a very nice one too, because we cannot go to Ganga and all that. So we are dissolving the ashes in the ocean. That okay, now you have become one with the entire universe. Because that is the biggest body that we have on the earth. To dissolve into. So if you do we do a little bit of contemplation. All our rituals have a lot of science behind it, no doubt. And I think more we learn about that science, the more we can appreciate and choose then what we want to do, what we connect to more. Okay, so since we have to go to Taittriya, I'm going to close Bhagavad Gita. If you still have questions, you can bring it next time. Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyah mokshayishyami ma shuchah. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.